I'm pleased to welcome T.S. Wallace to the Distinguished Poet Series at Passaic County Community College. T.S. Wallace is a widely published poet whose work appears in magazines such as America, the Georgia Review, and Studia Mystica. Terry Wallace has won many prizes, including the Sri Chinmoy Award, a national prize for spiritual poetry, and an award for poetry from the Artist and the Church Conference. He also is the director of the Poetry Center at Harrisburg Area Community College, and he is responsible for running the Wildwood Poetry Prize and the Wildwood Poetry Festival. Let's welcome T.S. Wallace.
Dancing before cardinals. I beg but the time your fingers drum on the table, a meager hearing at best, for my head is a poor pavilion. I'm God's idiot, can hardly see the scratch on the skin of the page or read it out loud. Breath heavy, ragged, throat sore, the taste of blood in my mouth. I can't even grasp simple things. My spoon slips into the soup. I cup my hands and wait for rain. I step out of the boat and sink so Christ can save me. Fathers, you who must receive with gloved hands, know these are cold times. You shiver, fathers, stiff and naked under your thick robes. You know the nature of sheep, how they ramble and stray, their noses to earth, eyes only for grass. How they crop and rip it out by the roots, leaving the meadow brown with the scars of close grazing. Fathers, forgive if I gather my words as I go, if when I speak I can't help moving my feet, for I do not carry the grave and terrible weight of the church like you, you who must be shrewd beyond evil. My poor tortoise of thought makes its slow round through the undergrowth and turns up little. Fathers, I bring no lies or compromise, no wealthy trade of words, no caravan of chatter to be ambushed by silence. Fathers, you see the truth of me, small like my friars, those little brown sparrows of men. God counts them over and over. He gave them a home in the purity of air and their food and their feathers. They had no pride, just the pleasure of wings, their dip and glide and slip on the rippling wind. They are simple by nature. Fathers, we who are not must be simple by grace. I'll finish with two short poems, one called Sloughing. Really what I do when I get up, slough the sleep from my eyes and such. I guess it's another one of these internal monologue poems. Sloughing. All night you've been busy, restless with dreams, stream of consciousness babbling like an undammed brook, all the voices of the world pouring past, the large headlines of disaster, quick men and women eager for gain. The chill of their life frightens you. You slough the sleep from your eyes and swing your feet to the cold floor. Fog, a wool-gathering day full of drifting ghosts. You remember geese wary as watchdogs, rabbits that run soundless as cotton, Delaware and Susquehannocks, moccasin-down deer trails, narrow as the hooves that made them. River ice breaks its own constricted back. You eat your breakfast of branded bananas, gather a lunch of apples and grapes. These are the fruits and grain of your life, a round of simple rituals, coffee and prayer, the seed-seeking juncos busy beyond your window, a flutter of small feathers against the cold. Finally, I find that I usually hate parties. Cocktail parties are the worst. Receptions, except for poetry receptions. Maria's got one of those. Right? Christmas parties, but they often show up in my poetry, so they must be doing something to me. And this one that I'm going to end with is simply called Reception in a Hall of Mirrors for a Man of Infinite Vision. Uncertainty eyes itself down an eternity of reflections. The music is bass, improvisation on a guitar with one string, concerto for snare drum. The room's deep with important people, men and women of wild speculation, high talkers stirring the air with their hands, and definite points, all the thoughtless words they can think of. They say he's heard the Big Bang and lived to tell about it. They say he sorted through 10 billion years of dark to capture the whispers of ultimate light, deciphered the explosive vocabulary of starspeak, examined each cosmic signature, wondering whether the universe was countersigned or ever underwritten. Hors d'oeuvres and the old ovation standing. He has entered the room, a small man, smaller than anyone imagined, so small his name is not worth mentioning. His longest attention is a passing glance. It's the nature of time to stand with its hands in its pockets, and it's his nature too. He knows people, how they hide behind their voices, how they mouth ancient excuses for their own satisfaction. If he opens his mouth, he will send the wrong signal. Even one word against the momentous declarations of silence. If he fixes their eyes with his own, he will draw them into a free fall down the shafts of infinite vision. Thank you.
There are a lot of things that I could say about Grace Cavalieri in terms of giving her biographical information and giving specifics about all the things she has done. Quickly, off the top of my head, just say a few of the things that Grace has done. For one thing, she has 5 books of poetry published, all of which are available, I hope, from WordWorks in Washington, D.C. She was the former director of media for the National Endowment for the Humanities. She also is the host and creator of the Poet and the Poem radio program on WPFW in Washington, D.C., which is National Public Radio. She was a writer in residence at Antioch College in its writing program for, I think, 8 years, and I could go on and on. She organizes jazz benefits for jazz musicians and poets in Washington, D.C., marathon things that go on National Public Radio and last 15,000 hours. She's one of the few women I think has more energy than I do. She doesn't sleep either. And, but anyway, over and above all the individual specific things that I could say that Grace has achieved in her life, and there are many things, I think that what appeals to me particularly in her poetry is the way that she's able to combine theatrical techniques in poetry to make her characters, and they are many different characters from many different walks of life. I think one of my favorite characters that Grace has created is Cora, who is a waitress, and is a really appealing, flawed, wonderful character. And I find that again and again in Grace's work, that what she's able to create is a character who is totally believable and yet may be completely removed from her own personal life. She seems to carry over the feelings and thoughts from her personal life and yet create characters that are very far removed from that. At this moment, Grace is working on an opera, working on learning how not to do so many things. And I think that I'll let her poetry speak for itself. Let's welcome Grace Cavalieri.
The first one is called "This Is the September of Our Loss." The old man who is to die takes a nap anyway. I admire that. That's true. I came down the steps and my father, who was 80, was lying on the couch, sleeping. And, he was rather old and almost ready to check out. Mom said, "That's it." And the title poem is called "Creature Comforts." Although the older eye loses sight, the less it asks, the more we want to give. Compulsive sight seeks connections such as flight. And what else is there but the bullfight, the accolades, the crowds, the wineskins, the flowers? We leave Creature Comforts where it is till I love it better. Going to read, I think I'll read one from the front of Swami Research's. It's because those are sort of autobiographical poems. And this is called "Father." When I see the 1900s walk by in early frock coat from a former time, I see you in gray and brown like New York, its cold cement. Small canisters of milk carried downstairs by children who could not speak the language. I hear the chicken freezing in your yard, let loose so you could eat that night. And of the pack of you, squabbling and squawking, in the corner, no regard is given by your queen mother, sitting in the chair, embroidering her dream of Florence, where there were stables, the town apartment in Venice, the fields to the north around Pisa, sewing the color she knew on fine silk. When I think of your father, the professor, coming home without money, paid once more in love and adulation by the crowds in their dialect, and how he died with pennies on his eyelids, the secret notes speaking of his failures to you, my father, the eldest. Did you know where to go with that pain? How ashamed you must be of us. Your brother's sons are physicians, physicists, researching the stars, and he, 18 months younger than you, spared again.